Christian parenting.
Today's topic is one that has been on my list for a while, but I've been avoiding it. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just do it. So the reason I've been avoiding it is because I don't have this is what we're doing and this is what you should do as well. Today's episode is more of, think of it like a story, and also just like a morphing of ideas and opinions and views. And my goal really is to just kind of share a little bit of my heart, share a little bit of where we have been, where we are right now, because I think that this has to be an open discussion. And I think when we become very rigid, and this is one thing that I've learned, when we become very rigid and say, this is how we are doing dating children, ... Now, for some kids, they'll say, oh, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, that sounds good. And some kids, that's not going to work for. I would have been one of those types of kids, one of those young adults. And so I also have at least one, if not more, of those as well when it would come to something like this. And so it's just been something that has grown with my husband and I. And today I'm going to share a little bit of our story, a little bit of our history. My goal is that nothing is explicit, nothing is inappropriate, but maybe this might be a topic just to kind of pop into your earbuds. I know a lot of you say, oh, my kids recognize your voice when we have met in person because you've listened to episodes with a speaker on. Maybe today's episode is one just to kind of pop into your earbuds or wait until they are in bed, just because it's a topic that maybe you're kind of thinking about. And anyway, it's not going to be anything inappropriate, but just want to kind of put that little bit of warning out. So let's get into my thoughts about dating as a homeschool mom with young adults and 3 homeschool graduates. Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast. I am Leigh Nguyen, and as always, blessed that you are here, whether this is your first episode, 10th, 20th, 50th, 100th, or maybe you have listened to all 466 prior to this, and you are here for 467. I'm glad you're here, no matter how you have found me. It is a scorcher of a July so far, but I hope that your summer is just a blessing for you and your family. Whether you take a couple weeks off, a couple months off, whatever it is for your homeschool schedule, I just hope that it is a time of maybe a little bit of rest, a little bit of fun, and just a little bit of breath of fresh air and a different type of routine. So let's get into today's episode. Are you ready? Let's do it. Just as a refresher, or maybe you're new here, I have 3 young adults, 2 boys that are 18 and 21, and our daughter is 23. Yes, 18 is still considered a teen, but I did mention this in another episode. We're like, no, we're not doing the teen thing. You're a young man right now, and we've been doing that. We don't fall into this is how the teenage years get to be, and you get to be wild and free and whatever. Yeah, you can have some fun. Let's have some good relationships, and let's have fun with family and friends, and let's do some fun things. Let's enjoy these years. But that's not an excuse. I decided that years ago, before our kids were, I don't know, our youngest was probably a toddler. And I was like, yeah, we're not doing the teen years. That's a new invention. So anyway, that's a side note. So 18, 21, and 23, all of them are currently single. Well, so maybe if you know somebody, then maybe more so for the 21 and 23-year-old. The 18-year-old, he's still got some things to we got to land our feet a little bit on the ground here after he's got some stuff coming up. And anyway, so that is where we are at. They are all currently living at home because guess what? It's not that bad to live at home. And I feel like that is a blessing. It does make life a little bit more hectic and crazy and full and loud and quiet and loud and quiet and all the things. But I am just enjoying this season. So let's go. Today's episode will be a little bit more of a story format. Next episode is going to be, I have some specific tactical tips. This is going to be a little more story. So my husband, James, and I have been married. It was 25 years in the fall. And we met through a friend after I graduated from college. I was sticking around for the summer in the area, and I didn't really have any friends in the area. Everybody left and went back home. But my first real job didn't start for a little bit. So I stuck around through a mutual friend that I started to get to know her. I met him. He did not go to that college, but he lived in the area. Long story short, we hung out some here and there with groups and that kind of stuff in that summer for maybe a month or 2. And then I moved back home. Our relationship was 2 years of long distance. It continued to be long distance, but we dated for 2 years and then got engaged and then got married like 5-6 months later, got engaged in the spring. And I wanted to get married by the fall. I didn't want to get married in the winter or wait for the next spring since we knew we wanted to get married. So here's the story. I grew up Christian home, great Christian home, but as maybe you've kind of figured out, or I've mentioned, and just even earlier in this episode, I rebelled against my parents' faith. I hadn't quite fully grasped a faith of my own. And even though I went to Christian college, I became a party girl. And he was a party guy. And so he wasn't walking in a relationship with God. And so our dating, I wouldn't say it was missionary dating. I'm not necessarily, that wouldn't be my first preference for anybody, because he and I were, I was far from God, and he was as well, because he didn't necessarily know you could have a personal relationship with God. And so the 2 years of dating was, I tell my kids now, this is kind of jumping forward, that, they meet somebody, they really get to know them. 6 months, a year, maybe it's less, I don't know. This is going to be their own stories. And and you're both solid, and even if maybe you don't see eye to eye on every secondary and tertiary theological thing, make sure you have discussions about those things. But you don't need to wait that long. We waited that long because I, in my heart, knew that the Bible said not to be unequally yoked, and I have that option not to be. And we're just dating. It's not a marriage. Marriage is now I understand it as a covenant and a forever commitment. And so that's really basically the story of why it was so long. And then we were just like, well, we're in love. And I really can credit it only to God's work, the Holy Spirit within him. And when we got married, he was a believer in Jesus and really beginning that faith walk. And so I look at where he is now, and it just brings tears of joy to me. And I know it could have ended differently, but I just am so thankful for the Lord for that. So we had no direction as far as dating. It was just, our direction was just how our friends dated, and that's really it. And so as we started to have kids, obviously, we didn't really think about it in the beginning. But then as they became like maybe elementary school, there's boyfriends, girlfriends, and we're like, yeah, we're not doing that. You can have friends that are boys and girls, friends of the opposite sex. That's fine. Because little kids, think of an 8-year-old. They don't really care who they're playing with. Yeah, the boys might be like, well, the girls, they don't really want to wrestle and that kind of stuff, so I'll wrestle with my boyfriends. Boys, friends that are boys. And so they recognize that there is a difference. But we had decided around that time that we're like, no, we're not doing the dating thing in the tweens and teen years. Began homeschooling, and we had formally set and told our kids, and I think this is really important to talk about these, if you have rules, parameters, expectations with them from a younger age, so that they know. It's not like they're 15 and they come home and say, oh, I'm dating so-and-so, or I'm going out with so-and-so. And you're like, oh, no, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to date until you're 16, 17, 18, whatever it is. That's kind of a little, you got to talk about it beforehand. So our kids knew. We said we're not dating until after you're done with homeschool, with high school, so which would be 18. And so that is probably one thing that we have stayed with. It comes from we just felt so deeply about it. And the ages of my kids. I have friends that are older, friends of the same age, friends that are younger. And so we've seen it in other people that are maybe close to us or just kind of around us. And we're just like, we don't want that for our teens. And so we stuck with that. But even so, even when high school was over, it wasn't kind of a jump to let's start dating and let's whatever. Like we've been like, okay, what is the purpose in this? And part of it is that we flirted a little bit, no pun intended, with courting. That kind of became a big thing. Now, listen, I grew up in purity culture, and I don't want to necessarily get into that. I've worked through all of that, and I don't think that we need to beat a dead horse. If you haven't worked through it and you grew up in that, then I encourage you to work through that and research, pray, and do read, that kind of stuff. Get through it so you can get to the other side. I can tell you the other side is really good. And so I was like, well, maybe courting is the thing instead. And so we kind of looked into that, and, a young man would need to come and ask James to go on a date with our daughter. And we're like, well, I don't know, maybe at 18 or so. But she's 23 now. And so we've kind of gotten to the point here where we have just poured so much into our kids and have so many discussions that, to be honest, the end point that we are at this point is that they are going to need to come up with their own boundaries. We pray that all of this is biblical boundaries when it comes to their purity of mind and body and heart, but also just how are they going to proceed through that on their own? I think, you just can put so many boundaries up, and some kids are really, like I mentioned earlier, really going to push against that. And I've just heard just things that just didn't quite sit right with me. And when it comes to courting, just people's experiences. And again, that's going to be their experience, and some people are going to have great experiences. And you don't have to write in. You don't have to tell me that you had a great experience with courting, and that's what you're going to do. Like, literally, that's okay. That is great for you, and you could decide to do that for your kids. I am simply sharing my perspective. And so we don't have to see eye to eye. You can still listen to this podcast episode. You can listen to all of them, and we can still be friends, right? Okay. So I don't know. We just decided that wasn't necessarily how we wanted to do things. We didn't want to put such strict regulations upon them. But again, lots of conversations. And let me go back real quick to the saying not dating in high school. I've heard a lot of arguments from both sides. And typically those are like, it's okay for them to date in high school, are because either they dated and maybe married their high school sweetheart, or they have kids that are dating. And so you feel passionate about it. You have this experience. And there's also, you don't want to say that it's not good and your kids are dating people like that. Of course you have to be okay with it. So I'm going to tell you that from all the arguments, and arguments is not as far as like fighting, like as if like this is like logical arguments or reasons behind. Jamie Erickson from the Unlikely Homeschool has been the only one that has presented a good sound argument, for lack of a better word, not like fighting, not that kind of argument, but reasons for allowing dating in high school. She had a post on social media about it, and I was like, okay. But I mean, at this point, this is just recent that she had shared that. And her and I are in a similar season of life. And so I'm like, okay, our youngest is 18 now and about to graduate homeschool. So we're not necessarily going to change anything. But if you are curious and interested, then I would encourage you to go look up her stuff on social media. So Jamie Erickson is also one of the speakers at Little by Little Homeschool Conference this fall. So if you'd like to maybe ask her in person, you can do that if you come to the conference. But I was like, okay, I can kind of get behind that idea. Now, to be honest, out of my three kids, if we allow dating in high school, I can almost guarantee that one, yes, would have dated. Would there have been multiple people that this one would have dated? Possibly. Another one is a maybe. And then the third one is a bit of a wild card. I don't know. I think it really also depends upon the families and the people that you're interacting with. If you are in a homeschool community and everybody else is not allowing their kids to date, well, then there's not somebody to date. And then it's like, okay, are we dating just the kids from church? Are they just the homeschoolers? Is it okay if they're going to public school, Christian school? You know, there's just all that. And so that's kind of where my kids would have landed. And I'm going to be honest, don't tell anybody I told you this, but from the one that would have dated, I don't know that there were those of the opposite sex that we would have been like, yeah, that's a good person to spend time with and get to know. So it's been a good thing for our family. So I will tell you that, saying not dating until after high school has been a good thing. And it's not like high school is this magical moment. It's just is allowing them time to mature and to grow in wisdom and to have other experiences. I am not for the experience of dating where you become so immersed as a teen into the life of somebody of the opposite sex. And it's basically like you are married, but you're not living together. And hopefully it's not like in the marriage way. But it's very difficult to refrain from that. And that's honestly, my husband and I are like, we'd rather you meet an amazing person now that you guys are older. So say 21-year-old. Meet an amazing young woman, and in 6 months you guys are like, yep, this is who I want to marry. And within 3, 6, 9 months, whatever, you guys are married, because the longer that you date, the harder it is to abstain. Okay, so let's move on to, so I was talking about Jamie Erickson. That's actually she has good reasons, and I could be swayed if I had younger kids. But then again, it's like, okay, do we change the rules for the younger ones? So I don't have that situation, so I don't have to worry about it. But lately, I would say in the past year, my kids will be like, here goes mom talking about dating again. I listen to podcasts and I try to just find like the best ones. And I'm really just trying to present them with information, with a different perspective. Because again, my husband and I did not have this. And so we were just copying what everybody else was doing and how everybody else was dating and how they all were thinking about it. To be honest, when I started dating my husband, I really just wanted a boyfriend. I wasn't looking to get married. I was 22 and marriage wasn't anything that a priority. And so really with our kids, we've focused on marriage and, how dating can end and how to even get into it in a way that you're not breaking people's hearts along the way. And so lately, the past, I guess maybe about 6 months or so, we have read through 2 dating books. I'm going to put the links for those in the show notes. It'll just link to Amazon because that's easiest. It is an affiliate link. So if you do purchase that through that link, I would be blessed, probably with about 5 cents. But 5 cents amongst a bunch of you can add up. Now, these 2 books have been phenomenal for the season of life my kids are in. If your kids are younger, then I would say late teens, I would encourage you to read it before giving it to your kids. And I would encourage you either way is that you read it with your child, young adult, with your teen, young adult. Now, that doesn't mean you have to read it at the same time as them. Maybe you have your own copies or you share a copy and you read it and you come together to talk about it. What we opted to do is instead at dinner, when it happened to be that all 5 of us were there for dinner, which doesn't happen, it happens maybe once or twice a week, so it did take us a while to get through these books. But I would kind of forego eating my dinner. We'd talk some, and then I'd kind of hold off on eating some so I could read, and then we would have a discussion. Sometimes these discussions lasted an hour, hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours of us just talking. And it doesn't even mean that they have to really share what this isn't us asking questions. We're just a conversation. We're having a good time. There's jokes in between, and then there's serious moments. And I just really want them to go into dating with their eyes a bit more wide open, knowing their options, knowing that asking somebody on a date doesn't mean you're marrying them. So those 2 books, I can't remember the names of them right now, but I'm going to put them in the show notes, were excellent. They were excellent for facilitating conversations. It talks about everything. Okay? So I'm just going to tell you right that so you figure out if it's right for your kids. Maybe your kids are younger teens or younger than that. You want to get the books and read through them and kind of have a perspective, you can. But I just really think that at this point, well, I know my husband and I are just like, we want to be open. We want to be the type of family that they want to bring somebody around that they're dating, that they aren't hiding it. They aren't hiding what they're doing, that they want to reach out for others to be accountable. That was one of the conversations. And they were like, yeah, no, we don't really want you to be accountable. But we are really trying to make sure that there's other adults that are saying that are saying the same things as us and have the same beliefs and biblical knowledge that we do and surround them so that if they ask them to hold them accountable, like perfect, that's okay. It's not mom and dad, but it's somebody else. So there's just been a lot of conversations and they have to decide on their own. It's kind of where we have landed with all this. We're not going to set up these rules. We are here for you. We pray that there aren't, I don't want to say mistakes, but parts of your relationship that you have regrets over. If so, we're here to talk about it. And we have talked about everything. You can just fill in all of the blanks for all of that. And I think that that's really important. And so I am not speaking from a perspective of somebody who has 3 kids that are married and they dated and it was great and stuff. This is just my perspective right now of an 18, 21, and 23-year-old who are all single and looking to mingle with the right people. But just where we are right now. And maybe my perspective will change. I mean, as you've kind of heard, like I have just kind of changed and thought things a little bit differently, open to some things, but I think that really it just comes down to, so that episode right before this where I talked about what my son said at the graduation ceremony, and just like, we want our kids to say that. We want to be the people that they come to and they learn knowledge and they learn this stuff about it. And so we've just had some great conversations with those 2 books have really just kind of led us. And it was just like somebody else saying the same thing that maybe we would say, but just in a better way and had really thought it through. And so that's my thoughts on dating. As a homeschool mom of young adults, I am in constant prayer, maybe not constant, that might be like a little bit, but like every day. Every day I pray for their future spouses. I have been doing that for years. And other people that I've been praying for, especially when my kids were younger, I was praying for their future spouses' parents, for them to parent them. I'm sorry. I cried the last one too, but just to parent them in a way that they need, that just helps reach their hearts for the gospel, and just, praying for the weariness of those parents, I'm sure, just because I was feeling weary at that time too. So I encourage you to pray, not just only for your children's future spouses. Obviously, pray for our kids, pray for your children's future spouses, but also pray for their parents as they are pouring into somebody that's going to be a part of your life someday. And so what does that dating look like? I'm not really quite sure. And to be honest, I don't think that there is, in 2026 here, in the 21st century, I don't think that there is one specific way. I think there's a lot of different cultural things we can read into now, and we can read into in the past, how they have dated. And, they can be like, well, dating wasn't even a word in the Bible. Okay, well, this is the place we're at right now. So what are you going to do with it? So I just encourage you to find resources, to connect with those two books. If you have questions, reach out, go look at and see what Jamie Erickson said, and just read with other people. And don't be ashamed of the way that you are doing it. That's what I would also add to it. And if you are a family, you're like, nope, we're going to do courtship, then that's absolutely fine. You'll find other families, you'll find other people and that are on a similar path. And if a young man or young woman is interested in one of your children, you're doing courtship, and that wasn't really what they were thinking, then maybe they'll come over to that side and they'll be willing to do it. So I really don't think that there is a right or wrong way when we are leaning on the Holy Spirit. And I just think that overall we need to be willing to continue to learn and not be so rigid in the way that we are doing, unless you feel like you need to. Yeah. I hope that I've just kind of encouraged you a little bit and just kind of get you thinking. I really think that it is something that we need to think about and to be intentional about, instead of letting our kids take the lead, especially when they are maybe teens. Instead of them taking the lead and being like, I've got this boyfriend from co-op or something, and you be like, oh, no, we're not doing that. You take the lead. You are the one that's setting the tone. You are the one that's setting the boundaries and the parameters. And then at a certain point, we just have to open our hands and release it to them. And I'm going to tell you right now, I prayed a lot for my kids when they were younger, and it doesn't end. It actually, I feel like as they get older, the stakes are higher. And so I'm just praying a lot more. So I pray that this episode has blessed you.